For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Michael.
Morning. Like most of the world, really, I suppose the rest of Asia Pacific was looking at waiting for the big tech results, which I'll bring to you later on. And basically, not a lot of movement, trading fairly mixed. However, an interesting story out of China is that at the Shanghai Motor Show, there's been a lot of emphasis on EV companies, electric vehicle companies, and the driver assist software. I place the emphasis on assist. We're not talking about driverless cars. If you remember, one of the companies was saying actually they feel this is a little way away, and we've often on this program talked about whether you trust a driverless car. So what the technology appears to be focusing on at the Shanghai Motor Show is driver assist devices, i.e. parking, changing lanes and the rest of it, but still the driver in general control of the vehicle. That appears to be the way that the software is going at the moment. In particular, Huawei interested in that. I feel as though this market, McKinsey reckons this market's worth about, $400 billion by 2035. I leave that figure with you. I mean, I guess that we're going to hear more from electric vehicle manufacturers about whether they feel as though driverless is something which is going to happen. More news out of China. Their biggest listed tech company, Tencent, it nevertheless is despite the fact that regulations in China appear to be improving very slightly. Tencent has nothing of, is saying that, but also it's going to try to buy gaming studios abroad. This is where it's going at the moment. So what it's doing is spreading its footprint globally as far as gaming is concerned. Let's go to the United States then. A bit of a recap there. Futures relatively flat this morning. We saw First Republic. There are more doubts about the banking sector this morning. It's a question of whether you feel as though this is systemic or this is still a fairly regional problem. But First Republic is on record now saying that $104 billion outflow of that went out in the first quarter of the year. Whether or not you feel that's systemic or whether it's just regional, again, this is the question, whether that's just an isolated example. Now, I said I'd bring you the big tech stuff. Microsoft, first of all, beat expectations, big jump in revenue, shares up 8% as a result of that. And it very much dependent on what it describes as its intelligent cloud business. Similarly, the Google owner Alphabet, better than expected. Their shares up about 2% at the end of the day. The board has authorized a $70 billion share buyback. That keeps us on track, or keeps them on track rather, for their buyback program. I should point out though that there are some important figures coming up this week which may well, never mind Alphabet and Microsoft, may well be affecting the stock market, not least of which are the GDP updates coming on Thursday. Let's go to Europe and UBS, the Swiss bank which bought Credit Suisse, unsurprisingly, is up for a record profit. They got $28 billion worth of assets from Credit Suisse immediately. And this doesn't take into account the accounting trick that talks about the negative aspect of a company like Credit Suisse and the loading that puts on the investment or the money that actually went into UBS. It's very, very complicated. I don't fully understand it yet. I expect some more details of that. But nevertheless, they are well on course now to becoming the global wealth manager. Whether or not global regulators will have something to say about that, only the future will be able to tell. Bank of England. Now, back to the UK. This is from the UK's chief economist. He's saying we're all worse off. In other words, what he's saying, what Hugh Pill, there he is saying is get used to it. Get used to the fact that the cost of living is going up. And therefore, what he's trying to do is speak against a wage price spiral. Whether or not people actually say, OK, Hugh, of course, yes, we've got to live with the cost of living getting higher and not try to do anything about it as far as their wages is concerned. I suspect he's a lone voice in the wilderness, but that's what the officials are actually saying. Staying with the UK, and the US government, as you know, is providing a lot of subsidies under their inflation bill, and basically this is affecting a number of UK companies which are now looking to the United States. One of which is Unipart. Now, Unipart is one of the global's biggest motor spare suppliers. In other words, if you are tinkering with your car, then you'll probably be buying spare parts from them. Garages most certainly do. Their chairman John Neal, who is also on the board of the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, so therefore he's a big voice in the industry, is saying that maybe this part of the UK will go to be listed in the United States. Certainly Aston Martin, the luxury car maker, is on record as saying that this subsidy will actually kill off the UK car industry. The Chancellor here says it's all right having subsidies, but some of those industries would have expanded in any case. So he's not moved by that, apparently. And staying with the UK, Amazon could be bowing to, coming under considerable union pressure now to become unionised. 700 of the 1,100 staff in Coventry have already voted for union representation. Amazon will have to deal with that. What they say is there is a regular review of wages and so on, but I suspect that they'll probably have to deal with the union just in the same way they're having to do with it in the United States. As far as commodities are concerned, oil slumping basically on the dollar rally, as you'd expect. Gold, the traders are saying to me this morning, saying overnight, we'll let it have its day in the sun because the dollar increase is going to have effect on that. I wouldn't bet on that, actually, as we see more risk appearing in the world, maybe more banking risk, maybe gold will have its time. And let's not forget cryptos as well. The Bitcoin is still being seen as a very risky asset, and but as earnings risks continue, again we're right in the middle of the earnings season in the United States. But any kind of move on that will affect Bitcoin, and not necessarily in a good way. That is the global view, ladies and gentlemen, this morning.
All right, I want you to talk me through this tech slowdown globally. I mean, Microsoft released numbers yesterday, and it wasn't really encouraging. I mean, for over $1 trillion company, you're having about 52 billion in rev, and Alphabet now trying to buy back about 70 billion worth of its shares in the market. I mean, what is happening to the tech sector in general? Because a lot of people thought the growth, that was accelerated in the tech sector during COVID-19 would only continue, but it's as though the bubble has burst.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think what appears to be happening is that now we're talking about investors here. What investors actually quite like is the fact that what they're seeing is tech companies which no doubt outgrew themselves in the good days before COVID, and also after that as well, feeling that somehow the world was rebounding, that, and they're finding that in fact it didn't. What the tech companies themselves are doing is trimming themselves down. So investors like that, and I suspect the share buyback is part of that too.
All right, let me talk about Unipart in terms of the impact on the economy. So Unipart, which is based in Oxford, employs around 8,000 workers in the UK. If they're looking to go to the US and even Europe because of better environment for doing business in terms of the government's investment or breaks for them, why is the UK not willing to match? At least in some instances, I know, the Chancellor has said that he's waiting for Europe in terms of what their decision or strategy would be before announcing the UK strategy. But why? Because if Unipart goes, that could be the first of other organizations who are looking to go to other countries to do business because it provides better incentives.
You say go to. I don't necessarily think the staff would go there. I think what they're talking about is a possible listing. But what the monetary authorities are saying here in the UK, for better or worse, is that actually subsidies are a very short-term kind of thing. These are industries which will either grow or fail in the normal course of things, and they're probably going where investment would necessarily take them. So whether Unipart is the beginning of another snowballing of companies leaving the UK, Don't know, but that's what the Chancellor is saying. He's saying that subsidies are fine and you can do that kind of thing, but A, they're expensive. B, they're propping up industries which some people are no part of, and taxpayers' money would have to pay for that at the end of the day. And thirdly, let business have its head. If it wishes to go there, then fair enough.
Michael, who wins and who loses from the new Australian trade deal with the UK? The International Trade Secretary, Kemi Badenoch, has been saying, oh, this is a fantastic deal. It will bring over £2 billion worth of exports to the UK. But in your opinion, this major trade deal after, Brexit, who loses? Who wins? How much value will you put to it?
If you're talking about the Asia Pacific trade deal, yes?
Australian, the trade deal with Australia, the trade deal between UK and Australia.
Yeah, all these things are a tiny part of the economy. I feel as though it's part of a general build-up as far as the UK is concerned post-Brexit. I would remind you, I neither would, as a journalist, either support it or not. What I'm saying is that I'm pretty confident that Australia needs the UK. Australia is trying to bolster its way, the same as the EU needs the UK. There's a great amount of interdependence. We need to be very careful about talking. I mean, I'm sure that Badenoch has been saying all these kind of things to boost her own political station and the rest of it. But the fact of the matter is that really the figures are immaterial. It's a question of alliances, and I think this is the important thing. And the world needs to understand that there is an enormous amount of interdependence about economies. I gave you the news this morning about China and Tencent, going abroad to increase their global footprint. They're not doing that in a defensive way. They're doing that in a proactive way. I think this is the way that trade is leading the world right now. I'm sure that bellicose politicians make the best of things, but generally speaking, it appears as though underneath that kind of noise, the general feeling is that we coexist on trade. That's my feeling about it.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. Now for business updates across the African continent. Rochus Odiri is here. Good morning, Rochus.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers out there. Beginning with unemployment, can't wait for those numbers from the Bureau of Statistics. KPMG, Big Four consulting firm, have their global economic outlook. About a 45, 50-page document. I jumped in to look at Nigeria in particular, and take a look at this. So their forecast for unemployment, 37.7 for 2022, 40.6 for 2023, 43.9 for 2024. So they see it continuing to climb. Here's a quote from their report where they talk about it. It said unemployment is expected to continue to be a major challenge, in 2023 due to the limited investments by the private sector, low industrial and slower than required economic growth, and consequently the inability of the economy to absorb the 4 to 5 million new entrants into the Nigerian job market every year, graduates and so on and so forth. Also lagged, the Bureau of Statistics recorded an increase in the employment rate, 23.1 2018, 33.3 2020, and then they talk about their estimates of 37.7 2022 and 40.6 in 2023. Along those lines, just to remind you of the economic forecast from the IMF and the World Bank, where they both see GDP growth for Nigeria slowing. So the IMF had 2023, 3.2%. They've seen it slowing to 3% in 2024. You've got the World Bank at 2.9% in 2023, unchanged in 2024. Again, big data dump in May. We'll be getting population figures. We can now extrapolate and do a annual growth rate from the last time we did a census up until now and see what, if we break it down year on year, what we've been growing up, and then compare that to the GDP figures on an annual basis. The gist is this. Essentially with the economy slowing and not growing enough to cater to its population, and then not being able to absorb the new entrants, graduates coming in, unemployment, it has to rise. I mean, as far as the forecast is concerned. And then every single person watching this program, everybody in this studio, knows 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people that's looking for a job. You can go down to the anecdotal level, take it to the empirical level, as the Rufai likes to do. On any measure at all, just ask. You know somebody asking you that's looking for a job. You know people that have left the country that are looking for work. So again, can't wait to see those numbers when they actually get here. We go to renewable energy. Owando Clean Energy, which is a subsidiary of the Owando Renewables Group, have a deal with Yutong, a Chinese company that makes electric buses, and also with Lamata, which is the regulator for transports here in Lagos. They're going to be delivering these electric buses to Lagos shortly. Now, they signed an MOU. Owando Clean Energy signed an MOU last year, June of 2022, with Lamata to get these electric buses here. They want to decarbonize the states. They want to train people on how to operate them. They want to create jobs and so on and so forth. So Yutong has these buses over in China. The press release they put out yesterday from Owando Clean Energy is that they've actually taken delivery of the buses. Now, of course, you're going to ask how they're going to keep the buses charged. Well, they say they're getting charging infrastructure as well. So I know we don't have lights and so on and so forth, but remember President Buhari signed that act into law that now allows the states to be able to generate their own electricity. So Lagos is looking forward, and a number of other states into, okay, we're going to put our own power together. Let's get these electric buses in. So we'll see over time when they actually get on the road. I mean, it's going to probably take a little bit of time. Now, while we're on the subject of electric vehicles, I want you to take a look at a video from an Israeli startup named Electrona, I believe. And so they are doing, Electrion, excuse me. They are testing smart roads in Sweden and the United States. This is a one-up level from what we're doing here from charging infrastructure. The roads actually charge the cars as they're driving. Take a look.
Electrion and its unique technology developed in order to change the future of transportation. The change starts today. Electrion Smart Road quickly and efficiently transforms our public infrastructure into a source of advanced energy. Public transportation vehicles will not require any refueling or charging at any time whatsoever. So, what does Electrion do? Electric vehicles will receive continuous power while the vehicle is being driven directly from the infrastructure embedded under the asphalt road, instead of carrying the heavy and expensive battery with a limited driving range and a short lifetime. With Electrion's groundbreaking technology, one can simply travel non-stop. Our city's landscape will change dramatically. No more gas stations, nor cumbersome battery charging stations. And as the number of vehicles traveling on the smart road increases, air pollution around us will decrease drastically.
I think it's just important when we talk about electric vehicles to just talk about how far things are going. That would be really expensive in order to uproot the roads and put panels there that can charge the cars. But then you would get rid of batteries and you would get rid of charging infrastructure. Real quick, the NDDC, they've signed apparently a $15 billion MOU with a company in, I think it's Georgia Energy Global Resources in Atlanta. And they are planning on putting rail infrastructure for the Niger Delta states, your Delta, your Edo, Abia, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, and so on and so forth, for rail to connect those states. So again, this is where Owando Energy was a year ago. So we'll see a year from now if we actually start seeing movement on this. But there was a ceremony, Adams Oshimole was there, and so on and so forth. And then finally, Multichoice is, they're raising prices, minimum 6, iOSpace is dropping. The minimum prices of 16% across the board for all their packages. Look, cost of doing business is going up, inflation is going up, the deals they sign when Aaron comes on and tells you about the Premier League and so on and so forth, it costs them money to broadcast those. So price, I hope there won't be a government inquiry from the legislature.
And the revenue they collect is in Naira, and the Naira keeps depreciating. But
excellent
real quickly,
point.
I'm happy about energy. I'm happy about the new energy cars. Let's not have that argument to how they're going to charge them. Yeah, power is a problem, but we have to still leap forward. One giant leap for mankind, and let's always look forward. The thing Electron is doing is innovative, but do we have to go to YouthCon in China? Innosong can make those cars.
Do you think so? Yeah?
Yes.
You think so?
I am 100% bullish.
Well, before it's the batteries. You need the batteries, the electric
Yes,
batteries.
Innosong can make it.
Okay.
Innosong, as in the same breath too. Innosong lost, I think it was 5 days ago, they lost their CNG buses like this too. And we all know the technology. Once you can get the battery paneling in, Innoson can make it. What am I saying invariably? It is time for us to start looking within.
Well, Stallion Group, remember Sonwolu debuted his electric car from Stallion last year or the year before?
It's not still, that's
indigenous.
indigenous.
I get you.
Because if Innoson does it, Innoson doesn't have a headquarters in Singapore or somewhere else, or China. Most of the job will be produced here. It will pay taxes to Nigeria, and Nigeria better. So what I would like to say is, why don't they patronize Innoson? Innoson can make all of those things they are looking at. And I'm happy about the rail line NDDC is doing. But the question is, what is the nitty-gritty of the MOU? Hope is not the one like the same where we now have K-leg that we will now be having to ask questions in the end.
Yeah.
Because how did they sign it? Is the federal government carried along in this deal? Who is going to give right of way? Who is going to do all of that? Are the state governors carried along? Is the chairman of the NDDC board carried along?
I saw your interview the other
day.
Question,
answer.
So many questions for you. So let me, since you said I laughed or my face dropped at the multi-choice question, it didn't, because I don't really, aside from my eyes, I don't watch any other TV. But I just wanted to mention that a comparative analysis in terms of the cost of subscription in Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya shows that Nigeria still pays lower. However, the argument would then come in that the number of subscribers in terms of how many people, because obviously for us in Nigeria, the attraction is the sheer number of people that are here.
Right.
And they've also had some concessions in terms of, there's a payment plan anyway. But this is following StarTimes, who also increased their tariff in April.
That's right.
And it begins to ask the question, and Rufai already spoke to that in terms of the our depreciating Naira, the enabling business environment, the cost of doing business in Nigeria. Exactly. If organizations like Multichoice have no choice but to raise the prices of their subscription, then how about other small businesses? This is what we should be looking at. We're forcing people out of business in some cases, as we saw with the bread makers, or people having to increase their prices. Thereby, the average man on the street cannot afford to pay for things like this. So it's,
first, let's start with Multichoice.
Multichoice,
it's not just Multichoice that is increasing prices in terms of subscriptions. StarTimes has also announced a price increase. And what is the main argument? Their main argument is the cost of business operations in Nigeria.
That's correct.
The same reason why many South African companies, other companies have left Nigeria. Because they say that the cost of doing business in Nigeria is very high. Our fear is that it's going to get worse. Okay? By the time fuel subsidy is removed, if it will be removed, by the time inflation goes higher than 22.04%, all of us will be here to bear the cost, because the cost will be shared. Nigeria is a country where it's not safe to save. Because if you save, inflation will wipe it out.
That's correct.
Problems will wipe it out. However, what Multichoice has done, which makes sense, Multichoice says, okay, people who have the resources, they can pay 1 year ahead.
Right.
At the old rate. So I've looked at it.
You've calculated
I will talk to my managers and see whether there is anything they can do in that regard. That's number one. Number two, NDDC.
Yes.
NDDC held what they call the Public-Private Sector Partnership Summit yesterday in Lagos, I think at the Hotel. And the whole idea, as engineer Emmanuel Audu, right?
Yes.
That's the name, who was on this program.
The last name.
No. I don't want to go there. I told him I would just stay with engineer Audu. He said, look, this is in line with the activation of a provision in the NDDC Act to see how the private sector can come together. But for me, the summit that they had yesterday, the big issue was stated by the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Umana Okon Umana. He said, number one, he hopes that the NDDC is going to pay better attention to corporate governance, which is a major issue that many Nigerians have talked about. He says when he took over, the major challenge that he faced is that NDDC, Niger Delta Development Commission, needs resetting and repositioning. And that's what he has been doing. Three, he made a point that NDDC hopes we stay away from getting embroiled in politics, in unnecessary politics. So while, the PPP idea, which is a common slogan around here, while it may be attractive, the thing to note also is that, look, NDDC as an institution must realize that there are many issues that have been raised about the management of that institution. And Dr. Ogbuku, the new managing director, knows that he has a major task ahead of him. When Engineer Audu was on this program, we raised the point. We said, what is the relationship between the managing director, the new managing director, and the chairman or chairperson, if you like, Loretta Onoche.
Yes.
So we don't want to hear issues about who is approving
this
check,
that, right?
who is trying to influence whatever. That, I think, is the major challenge that the NDDC faces, so that it can be an effective organization that will deliver for the benefit of the people of the Niger Delta.
Amen to that.
So that's my submission. As for renewable energy,
yes, electric buses.
Electric buses, very good, no problem. We are in the age of technology.
Yes, we are.
We are in the age of innovation.
Yes.
When the common sense Senator Bemuri Bruce, when he showed up a few years ago with an electric car, everybody was laughing at him. He went to the Senate, he was talking about electric vehicle. People told him, Senator, please sit down. Which one is electric vehicle? We don't even have electricity, but this is how the world is. This is the future. But here in Nigeria, well, are we ready? You are talking about the electron, smart roads.
Yes.
Okay. But I think the bigger issue to prepare for the future is that we have to look at the technical side of it. Is it a good mechanic that will repair electric vehicles? Or is it Ayo? Or this Baba Monsuru, Baba this, Baba that? No, we also have to look at the training, the technology, the expertise.
Yes, exactly.
Otherwise, we'll be in that electric vehicle, we will get electrocuted.
We need to upskill our people.
Thank you very much, Rotus.
Thank you so much.